All right. Hi, Larry. How you doing?
Terrific. Yeah.
Oh, good. You missed the overview, but just remember the most important few minutes are the beginning, your introduction of yourself. Take 2 or 3 minutes to introduce yourself.
Sorry about that. Yep.
I'll let people start trickling in. But, as most people out there know already, welcome to Module 4 of MITA's Social Equity Mentorship Program and our opportunity for individuals out there to network with the existing cannabis industry and for the cannabis industry's opportunity to give back and to help prepare the social equity applicants out there in the future by offering themselves as role models or mentors and a little bit of an overview about how the industry works. We really appreciate your support. You might be watching this 3 months from now. You might have, I guess you couldn't have watched it 3 weeks ago if you're watching live, because this one is live. But we urge everyone to participate live because you could get into the chat room and Paul Paredes, industry expert. We're still working out how this works because it's a new concept. But right now, Paul is our master of the chat room. And also you can chat with our industry professionals, which you're going to meet for the first time today. So, thank you for signing up. And whenever you're watching this, we wish you well on your journey. And of course, this is open source and available to everyone out there throughout the national cannabis industry, as well as individuals who are looking to transition into cannabis, whether it's a C-suite or a management position. Basically, we're giving an overview of how the entire Arizona cannabis industry works and helping you network with individuals like the individuals we have here today. So any other admin stuff that I should have put in there, Destiny?
Nope, just make sure you're checking out the website and signed up to our email list to get all the updates coming up. This is going to be every Thursday. If you want to tune in every Wednesday, we also have a networking event that we are going to be putting on.
Yeah, so that Wednesday, industry experts will be answering questions for free and just networking in general, and that's for everyone. The other thing that's Destiny Blanco. She's like the administrator for COO, CEO, CFO, every title that MITA could give her, she has. She's behind the scenes helping put this all together. So please reach out to her for any questions. The other thing I wanted to announce is that we did do a change in the program. And that's, we have the 13 modules going till April 15th every Thursday. And then the 3 modules that Dr. Humble from the DHS used to, he created the medical marijuana program. He's going to teach, as well as probably Bianchi and Brandt and Jeff Tice and Paul and our other tremendous industry experts, what the rules mean. Those are going to be once the rules are released. And we anticipate that being July, August, right in there. We urge people to put pressure on the DHS in a very polite and friendly way to make that happen as quickly as possible. But what we did is we have so many professionals out there, like Kim from Proven Media, who's like the cannabis media expert. She said, Dimitri, you don't have us as one of the 13 modules, but we'd love to help. So we've created what we call module expresses, and you're going to love this. During the month of May, we're going to record and store online an hour-long deep dive into the specific topics, subject matter topics of those experts, and make those available to all of you out there so that you can learn about what they do. We came up with this idea about 10 days ago, and we have 16 already. So if anybody else out there in the industry or anybody, one of our panels wants to take us up on the offer, they're going to be less entertaining. They're going to be more of get the bones off the meat, as Jeff Tice likes to say. And I call them a little less interesting, but they are very deep dive things, but they're going to be fantastic. So watch closely, stay on the MITA website, and you'll kind of see what's going on. So without further ado, I think that's all the administrative stuff right now. Let me introduce our panelists, which I call social equity mentorship specialists, people who are willing to make themselves available to people out there who want to learn about the industry and et cetera. Let me start first with our facilitators, our moderators who are here on board. You meet them every week, but Jeff Tice, take a second to reintroduce yourself.
Thanks, Dimitri. Jeff Tice. I have a small public accounting specialty practice emphasis in cannabis. I'm an ex-license holder, opened multiple stores and cultivations, went through the licensing process as you're thinking about now. And I've known Dimitri and Mita from the early days, and enjoy participating in these sessions and providing opportunity. I've met some very great participants that have reached out, and look forward to continuing to do that.
Jeff, I totally forgot. I have to mention Dr. Will Humble, the former DHS director, can't join us today, and Dr. Bober from Scottsdale Community College can't join us today. They're also helping develop the program, and this program would not exist but for the underwriting of weed maps and the underwriting of Copper State, and their willingness to understand our vision and to join us on this adventure, which they said, oh, so we're helping others. I mean, it was beautiful. Anyway, so Weed Maps, Copper State, Zuber Lawler is involved as strategic partner. They're helping us bring tremendous experts to the table for you to meet, and you're going to meet one here in a second. So thank you again for those sponsors, and Scottsdale Community College, who, as soon as we're done with this, our project to help the social equity applicants out there, they're going to go forward for the next 10, 20 years and actually have a cannabis course, and probably be inviting many of our panelists to be guest speakers, et cetera. So thank you for all those strategic partners. And we'll thank our module sponsor here in a second. But let me introduce our one of our panelists, who was brought to us by Zuber Lawler. And he's an industry expert. And take you a little bit of time, Bruce, to talk about yourself. And then we're going to go to Paul Paredes next. You have to come off mute.
Of course I do. Thanks very much for having me. Little bit about me. I spent most of my career in the investment banking business and financing various types of businesses, and got involved for the first time in cannabis, I would say, in around 2013 with one of the very early stage Canadian licensees called Metrum Health, which became part of Canopy. And one of the things that struck me over the course of dealing with a lot of these cannabis companies is the passion that the principals bring to the business, and I thought that's something that I really want to get behind and bank on. Since then, Langstaff and Company was established last year, mostly as a restructuring advisory boutique. We've helped a number of companies in Canada in the space who have run into financial difficulties because adult use in Canada became legal a couple of years earlier than it did in the United States, and so we've already had our mania in all of the stocks, and we've now got some visibility up here as to which business plans worked and which were not, and how to build a really sustainable business in the space. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm really glad to be supporting social equity. It's a cause that's really important to me, and look forward to participating, and thanks for having me.
Bruce, we really appreciate you being here, and your email will be available on the MITA website. And we hope people, restructuring advisory boutique, those are all very complicated things. And I'm glad you're here, because I wouldn't know what to do or say to people when they ask me those questions. So thank you for joining us and making yourself available to the public. Very much appreciated.
No problem at all.
Yeah, so let me move on to our next moderator, Paul. Paul's one of my favorite persons. I always tell people that if you have a sidekick named Paul, you can do anything.
I don't know about anything, but my name is Paul Paredes. I am a cannabis business consultant with AZM. I'm sorry?
You can't avoid crucifixion.
All right. Well, I've been in the industry about 6 years, working under some C-suite executives, helping with whatever projects they may need. So I've learned a lot of processes over the years and been involved in a number of applications. So hoping to be able to share my experience here with social equity applicants and network with the other participants. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'm going to try to answer all of them as we go.
Let me introduce our next moderator and one of the people who helps with us design this program and the creator of the medical marijuana program, who's here with us. And most of the stuff we're talking about today was probably not, there's a lot of problems with the deal structuring and the banking, but they didn't have anything to do with it. So we don't blame you, Will. We thank you for creating a medical program that we all love. But Will Humble, please introduce yourself to the public again.
Thanks, Dimitri. Thanks, everybody. Nice to be back here again. I'll be on here every week. Some days I'll have more to contribute than other weeks. As we get deeper into the regulations that the Department of Health Services is going to build around the social equity licenses, I'll have more to contribute during those weeks. But thanks for the invitation. It's always nice to be here. And actually, I learn a lot during these sessions myself.
There is no greater compliment that we can get for putting these things on. So thank you, Will, for pointing that out. People are learning from these things, and that's exciting because right now, imagine, I always tell all of our panelists, all of our industry leaders that we know out there, imagine if something like this existed for you for free online prior to getting involved in the industry. Think about how much easier things would have been. So it's very exciting to be doing this. And so thank you, Dr. Humble, for always being here. Caleb, do you want to reintroduce yourself?
Yeah, make sure I unmute myself. So hello there, I am Caleb Tice, Chief Operating Officer of Canna Owners. It is a boutique consulting firm that we help organizations of all sizes, from your mom and pop up to your MSOs, from everything on the operational or the compliance side, and especially on the accounting and doing cost accounting, break-even analysis, all of those things that you need in order to understand your business, make decisions to help you to be more efficient, and ultimately drive better performance on the bottom line. So I've been instrumental in applications and helping with training and organizational development. So there isn't really much that I haven't been exposed to or can't learn. So I'm happy to be a part of this program and help to share the knowledge that I've gained over the last decade with everyone who's where I was 10 years ago, looking to get into the program and looking to be part of the industry. So thank you, Dimitri, for having me. I'm just very happy to be a part.
Thank you, Caleb, for joining us, and you're another great industry expert. And if anybody's wondering why I'm wearing this hat, it's because I am in South America today. Let me go to the next. Gary Smith, did I introduce you?
Not yet, but you just did. There you go.
I have a little bit of a fever today, so my mind isn't exactly clear.
Is the prescription more cowbell?
I think I'll be okay. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, all right. I guess we've started my introduction. So hi, everybody. I'm Gary Smith, attorney at law. Amongst other things, I am a board member and current president of the Arizona Cannabis Bar Association, an association of lawyers here in Arizona who are dedicated to cannabis law. Additionally, I have an active cannabis practice and have been on the scene pretty much since before the medical marijuana program started. So I've been around for 10 years serving the industry.
Gary, thank you. And I know I sent people over to yourself and Bianchi and Brant, and we'll get to Clark here in a second. But, I'm going to try not to chime in too much. I'll be available on Wednesdays to chime in more. But if there's one takeaway that I can give you from today, it's a complicated industry, and don't ever underestimate the importance of your lawyer. And that's before you apply and after you apply. It's just this whole industry, it's so essential because of the new regulations, the new laws, the crooks that are out there, that you work closely with an attorney. And Gary is the president of the Arizona Cannabis Bar Association, and he's also a great lawyer himself and a great friend, so we really appreciate you being here. But thank you for joining us, and Jeff will take over here and guide the conversation in a second. But again, really appreciate your support. Let me move
Absolutely.
on to another great lawyer and a great law firm, and who works closely with Laura Bianchi, who I've known in this industry for about 8 years now, since the beginning. An amazing group when it comes to structuring deals. And I just love my lawyers. Can I just real quickly tell my story about how I got screwed in a deal because I didn't paper.
Tell it.
I'm not going to bore you. Laura would say, don't talk about it. Clark, introduce yourself to the public out there and take a second because you're new to our group here.
Yeah, so thanks, Dimitri. And thanks, Mita, for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to potentially help new entrepreneurs succeed in this new social equity program, which is a great thing. I think it helps lower barriers to entry and help get others involved who are interested in becoming involved in cannabis. Now, a little bit about myself. I'm a business and litigation attorney here at Bianchi and Brandt. I'm licensed to practice in Arizona and Missouri. Our firm has been involved here in Arizona with the cannabis industry since the very beginning. So, back in 2011, when the first batch of medical licenses went out, and up to this point, we have clients who are, mom and pop shop type of dispensary owners, multi-state operators, and also international public companies. So we have a great deal of experience handling deals and transactions of all sizes. Deal making is our bread and butter, so to speak. And we've helped license holders, from the very inception, from getting through licensing, figuring out, what they need to get from point A to point B in terms of getting their business models and everything else ready, as well as after after they obtain their licenses, structuring their businesses, working out their deals, making sure that they're compliant with all state and federal regulations, and ensuring that they have smooth operations going forward. So, again, thanks, Dimitri, and thanks, Mita, for having us here today. I'm more than happy to speak with anyone after the session about any questions that you might have about adult use licensing in the state, compliance issues, or generally the social equity program. So thanks again.
Well, thank you, Bianchi and Brandt. Thank you, Clark Wu. Thank you for your support. And, we always remind people the first thing you need to do is lock up your consultant, lock up your lawyer, and then, then they'll help you get things done right. But let me just go to our next guest today, Larry Lipman. Please introduce yourself to the audience and take a couple minutes. It's no rush here. We want to make sure people know you're accessible and a little bit about who you are.
Well, thank you, Dimitri, for inviting me, and very excited about this opportunity to help people in banking. I present all over the country, and I generally tell people that the 5 most important people and entities that you should sign up for are your lawyer, your CPA, good software, join the association, and banking is the most important part to be able to track funds so that if and when you get audited, you'll be able to show everything properly. Banks generally don't want to participate. I think there's about maybe 500 banks and credit unions in the nation that participate in the cannabis industry. And usually it's because there's too much overreach by regulators. So back about 4 years ago, we created a specialized non-bank financial institution. Other non-banks are insurance companies, brokerage firms, and the United States Postal Service is a non-bank as well. So as long as you're licensed, you should be approved by us. We're similar to a bank, but we're more internet oriented. And we have an entire enterprise resource portal for track and trace, seed to sale, payroll, and most important, reducing the excessive IRS 280 cap e-tax. If you're not familiar with that, contact us because that excessive tax puts you in an 80+% tax bracket, and obviously you don't want to be there. So we've been doing this now for over 4 years. We've moved hundreds of millions of dollars within the cannabis industry. We don't advertise, it's all word of mouth and gone through associations. And we're looking forward to working with you as you contact us.
Yeah, Larry, and thank you again for being here. And Jeff, obviously there's so much to teach. It's like trying to teach people about baseball, and you start with the pitcher's mound and the bat, how the bat's made, and it's a big thing. And so I always say, imagine if you're an alien coming to Earth, trying to learn about baseball. There's a lot of elements to it. So we're not necessarily, Jeff's going to guide us, give us a little bit of direction as we go through the slides. But what we might want to do, and this is where we develop those module expresses, is I'm thinking you and Alt36 and some other individuals, we should probably do like an update on banking in May, you know, as one of those express modules. And so if we don't get a lot of information out of you today, people can contact you directly, but we'll definitely have, you know, a specific banking one set aside for May, because it's very important. I think we're going to focus a little bit more on deal structure today,
That's fine.
which is good.
Yeah.
So and then when we put together these 13 original modules, I was thinking, what can we really afford to do and timeline for free, because it will all happen in May. So we just picked 13 topics, and so please excuse us as we evolve this.
Not a
The
problem.
most important thing is that people know who you are and
Yep.
you're available out there. Again, one of the reasons why we can function is because of our industry leaders and module sponsors. And of course, we've asked Copper State and Super Lawler, Scottsdale Community College underwriting this program. And so let me introduce our next today's module sponsors, who are also guests on this panel. And you don't have to have any sort of connection with the panel to be a module sponsor. Like next week, Full Circle is the sponsor, and they're involved with cultivation, but we're talking about retail. So don't worry about the connection. We have so many modules that need sponsoring. If you feel like jumping on, we'll give you a few minutes at the beginning to talk about what you do in the industry. But also, just coincidentally, our panelists, our sponsor, our module sponsor from Alt36 is also an expert in the subject matter at hand today. So let me go ahead and introduce, or actually you guys self-introduce, Alt36.
Hi, thank you, Dimitri. My name is Lauren. I'm the CEO of Alt36. You know, I think we're extremely happy to partner with META, and it's just a very unique opportunity to help with the social equity program. We're very interested in just kind of giving back, giving our expertise. You know, I have Jillian on here as well, because I think that it's not just our expertise is definitely payments, but I think there's a whole aspect around payments that's kind of forgotten, which is the marketing piece as well. But, you know, so my background is about more than 10 years in high risk payments and payment technology. And so we've been in the cannabis industry for a little over 3 years. The company's been around since 2015. And so I'm looking forward to helping kind of, whether you choose Alt36 or not for payments, just giving you the tools, the information that you should be asking your payment provider, and then linking up with other partners. Like I think, you know, connecting with Bruce actually would be a great idea, because we don't do banking per se ourselves, but payments is a piece of what would help you kind of track things, be more compliant. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes.
And I'm Jillian Christie, and as Lauren was saying, yes, marketing is maybe the less talked about side of payment processing, but it's, I think, equally as important as the compliance piece as well in terms of a thriving business. I have a background in consumer marketing with Red Bull, NBC, lots of different entertainment and sports marketing companies. And so coming into a software company, I get to see some gaps of where that human touch can, you know, kind of be, you know, given more and expanded upon. And yeah, we not only want to, you know, we're super pumped to be on this panel and partner with META. We are so excited though to help educate and set these new entrepreneurs, all you entrepreneurs out there watching, up for success, not only logistically, compliantly, but also, you know, once they get past that threshold, we want them to know that they can have fun as well and build a community out of their business. So yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting META and supporting this project. Sometimes, you know, it blows my mind that this is what we're going to do for the next 3 to 6 months, is just be helping and educating people and getting these, 26 new license holders. Maybe there'll be 39 if the legislature increases it. They can increase it by 10%. Getting them ready for their future, as well as helping, thousands of individuals out there learn about the Arizona industry and the national cannabis industry as well. So this is, fantastic. And we get to help you all network with each other. So, Lauren, Bruce.
I know, I'll probably send you an email.
Get to know each other. Gary, everybody, this is kind of a COVID networking. What a unique situation. Also though, please, as you come up with more express modules, we will add those. They will be 1 hour long and they will be put online and available to individuals. This is what we do. Imagine if well, I was gonna say my Moses thing and the 10 Commandments, if you stayed on the mountain and all that stuff, but I won't go there. I make
You're 80% of the way there, Dimitri. Finish.
I know. I make too many biblical references, Gary. I don't know why. So I'm about to turn it over to Jeff, and Jeff is going to take us on this journey. And please, commentators, one of the values of having this gallery view and all the intelligentsia on here, and Jeff is not a sensitive man. So if Jeff is wrong,
Yes, I am.
Jeff is wrong, Bruce, about something, feel free. Let's have a discussion or a debate about it. Because this kind of open forum allows people to know that they're dealing with experts like yourself, Bruce, or Clark, or Larry, or Lauren. You guys that are willing to discuss the ins and outs, the rights and wrongs, the good or bads of your particular understanding of how the world works. Sorry, I do have a fever, so I do apologize. My mind's not 100%. So because I have a fever, and I want to turn this over to Jeff now as our host to go through the slides. Are you going to put the slides on there, Jeff? Is that?
Yes, sir. I am. As soon as we have a nice transition here.
Okay, so I'm going to transition over to you. I'm going to go grab some water, and I'll be back, and we'll keep going. And so let's share some good information. And our panelists, please jump in, and we'll see what kind of help we can give to people out there. So thank you guys all for indulging me. Thank you.
Okay, we good, Dimitri? I think we are. Okay, I'm just trying to get my own technology up to the time frame of where we are. Just a moment. Sorry about that. All right, as Dimitri's pointed out, we're yin and yang with our approaches, and being an accountant at times, I do like my debits and credits here. So I did have two parts of this particular slide just to outline where we go. So pardon the professional caution, which is that I like to line things out as we go along. We've already covered many of these things here. The outcomes and objectives. Let's just move right along through it because we have a lot of material. The exciting thing for me also is that Dimitri's put together a great panel of experienced experts. A euphemism title we throw around, but in this case it really fits because we've got folks that not only within their respective area have the expertise, but also they know who's who in Arizona. And we'll spend a few minutes on that slide, but there's a lot of wealth of information here. So I'd like to outline really what we expect to get out of here. We've let everyone know that this program is designed to get you ready, designed to help form your own plans. And so you can see that we're going to go through some topics at some high level and look for some of the insight that our professionals will be here. And we're going to start really with business structures first of all, and I want to get some of the panelists' perspective on this. Is that I call it beginning and also sometimes the ends, and that's really because if you don't take a little bit of time thinking about who you want to be in business with, that sometimes that your own selection creates so much conflict that the company fails. And the rule at the bottom, and then I'm going to turn to a couple of our panelists here, is that I like to look at is that it's a 2%, 100%. Would you rather have 2% of something, or 10%, or 20, or 100% of nothing? And what I mean by that is, as you go about and you're putting together and you're evaluating what people are contributing, what is that really worth? And ultimately, how, if the company is going to be successful, you split it up. And it's great to get to know these things ahead of time. That's all too important. So let me say, Clark, as we're starting to talk about this and looking around, trying to partner in. In one of the slides later on, we're going to talk about the importance of coming and engaging legal. But what would you like the prospect or your prospective client that calls you up and say, Clark, we've got a wonderful idea and we want to form a business? What would some of the things that you could share that would help them to be prepared to be better clients for you?
Of course. Thanks, Chef. And I think, step one is looking at your proposed business from a holistic type of model. I always tell people, think ahead. And I think that's something that you recognize as well. Something that's interesting about Arizona's adult use program this time is you don't have to submit your business plans in advance. The difference between licensing structures where it's either a lottery or a merit-based system is typically in a merit-based system. We don't know what the social equity program is going to look like yet, but in those type of systems, you're forced to come up with your business plan beforehand. And when that happens, you actually have to think about how your business is going to work because you're pitching that deck to, the department. But here, since that's something that's going to come after the fact, it doesn't mean that it's anything less important. And I think this is even more so in Arizona in comparison to some other states because you have a vertically integrated licenses here. So if you obtain an adult use license, you're able to operate, your dispensary facility. You're going to have an off-site cultivation. You could have an off-site manufacturing facility, and that's a lot of moving parts. A lot of people are starting to recognize now that, hey, this is a high growth industry and it's something that we want to get involved in, but that's as far as usually the planning goes. Because there's so many moving parts here, it's important to think about who you're bringing on, to your team, what can they contribute, and how is your business model going to work here. And that's why I think your first slide, really speaks to me because what's the point about fighting about what the distribution is in the beginning if you haven't even thought about what your business is going to look like yet? We have a lot of prospective clients that come into us and they say, hey, Clark, we want a license. Help us get a license. But after that, that's as far as they go. So I think step one is really figuring out, well, do your research, do your homework, and figure out if this is an industry that you really want to get into, what do you need to do to get there? And part of that might be, speaking with people that are experienced in the industry, getting their feedback, learning about how to structure things and how to plan your business and at least get a sense of where you want things to go. And after that point, you can meet with your attorneys, you can meet with your consultants and nail down the points of how you get there, whether or not that's, doing the appropriate structures, nailing down the points of your business plans. But, at the end of the day, I think that's step one.
Thank you. I want to advance to this slide here that everything you said could prevent some of these outcomes. And what all of you will experience as you start to develop your teams is everybody has an opinion. And then the second point there, having an undefined decision-making process really relates back up to opinions. Is you as a group, as you're putting together your team and creating an organization, ultimately somebody has to make a decision. Because managing by groups doesn't work very well. So some of these challenges, when I say challenges here, and then Gary, maybe I'll look out to you with you know, a similar question, because being overwhelmed and just maybe being exposed to an attorney, it could be frightening at times.
I love that you're calling on me for that.
Well, I certainly don't mean you personally, but if you know, in my world, sometimes as a CPA, well, you know, we're trying to work on deductions or things that, and lawyers tend to be, it's where the rubber meets the road, baby, and decisions need to be made and made well.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean by that. And is there anything that, as we've heard from Clark, anything that you would see that, you know, how do they filter down that information to make effective use of your time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciated everything Clark said. I wanted to add to that Clark was speaking in direct relation to your question to the entry point of getting into this business from the moment of just deciding you want to do it. And there are so many moving parts to that decision. Oh my God. But when we sit down in my office with clients, we ask all those questions as well. But we also ask the end point. What's the client's intended exit plan or exit strategy? Because if they know what that is, that will absolutely shape what we're doing at the front end, because we can put things in at inception, planning for that eventuality. And also, critically important, if you're facing a client who hasn't given a moment's thought to, how do I get out of this business once I'm in it? My God, that's a revelatory moment for them. They haven't thought that far. So we can help with those decision processes as well. And why is that important? It's important for a variety of reasons. If you've got multiple co-investors, you've got to know what their long-term intentions are. If you don't have the same intentions, or at least compatible intentions, that will become a friction point at some moment. You know, they might, in conformity with the operating agreement and appropriate situation facing the business, demand a capital call when you weren't expecting that you were going to keep expanding. Well, oh my God, what a horrible moment for you. Or, you know, maybe one of your co-investors had it in their mind that they were going to cash out in 5 years and nobody was expecting that. Another horrible moment. So these are things you should be anticipating, and you can bake right into the structures. So for example, you might decide not to have a singular LLC. You might want to fracture your business structure into multiple entities so that you can move them around more freely. So those are just a few examples, and I hope that helps. Does that answer it, Jeff?
Yes, sir. It does quite a bit, because you know, if you look at the bottom 2 points, I want to comment on that for a moment for everyone to think about. You know, when you start to spend money, the team begins to form. What I mean by that is when you have decided you're going to hire an attorney, engage legal counsel, you're beginning to spend your money, and you're making decisions that you have to formalize your business structure. And we're going to talk about structure a little bit more as we go along here. But the difficulty as you're going through this process here is again, it's the first bullet point, and the last one is that you're going to get a lot of opinions. And then you're also going to hear that a lot of expert opinions. And I can honestly say today we've got the expert up here on experts for opinions. And so when I say beware and do your homework, you're doing well being here, I believe. And the second is you have to have a BS meter, somewhat. We'll call it the BS-o-meter to dig through the BS. There's no other way to say it. And I'll say from a personal experience, the first year, you know, we had 3 or 4 managers and probably 5 different cultivators. And that's because we, you know, first passed through, we believed that everyone was an expert. And so that was a hard lesson to learn. You hire someone, you bring them on the team, and you discover that they were very good growing in a closet at home. But when you're at scale, it's a different environment. So,
Jeff, if I may make a quick comment.
Yeah, please do.
lot of people have been reaching out to me saying, property owners and financial partners want us to make certain commitments to them if they're going to be our partners in this social equity process. And I keep telling them, well, we don't know what the rules are yet. So I don't know if they're even going to require a financial partner or if they're even going to require a property owner to be in place. So I don't know what to tell you. There's things I do know. Lawyers are important and information is important. But what maybe any of the other panelists might opine into this. What is there any advice that we can give them on that particular subject?
On which one again?
On the particular subject of what do they do about the with the potential property owners or potential financial partners who are suggesting to them that they make certain financial commitments to them, percentage of the license if they should win, etc. But there's nothing in place yet, and people are worried that they might miss the boat and that financial partner might go elsewhere, that property owner might go elsewhere, and they're thinking, well, I need to sign up that property owner and give him his 10% because I don't want to be without a property when I apply. But I don't know if there's any, but there aren't any rules that say you have to have a property yet.
Well, I'll just give you my opinion on that, and the firm and fast advice that I give to everyone, especially at this stage, is paying rent on an empty building is one way. That at $800 a month or $1,200 a month. If you locate a building at this point where we have 6 months. I don't suggest that anyone give away equity of nothing right now. If you have a dynamite place and it's just a great deal, then I would say consult your professional team and evaluate the totality of that particular decision making. That'd be my opinion. Gary, others, I'd say legal, Clark, you've seen some experiences where that's gone bad. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I was about to offer exactly that. For any of you who were on the scene a decade ago when our medical program switched on, there was a requirement that you had to have your real estate locked up at the time of application, which of course caused insane real estate speculation in Arizona. And naturally, people were grossly overpaying to purchase or lease. And I recall at least a few instances where applicants who definitely were tied up in a long lease or made an overpriced purchase didn't get the license. And all of a sudden, they were stuck with a long-term lease that had no useful value for them at all. Right. Or in its worst manifestation, which I saw at least one of, they had so overpaid for the real estate, even at fair market value, they could not recoup what they put in. So you want to mitigate against that. And there are ways to mitigate against it. Well-worded contracts that have a lot of conditional language in it and escape clauses can be crafted to help staunch some of the bad bleeding that can come from it.
No, you're right. And let me talk about that third point on here just for a moment, because if you put together an effective team, again, an accountant and legal, I mean, there's a minimum level of capital you're going to be required just to have a fighting chance to be in this arena. And so that, and whatever, I'll say again, hard costs would be the legal, your accountant, some expertise you may need in your application writing. But notice I put that there is no traditional capital for this. And part of what the government or state of Arizona and their program will want to evaluate is what's the likelihood of being successful if you're awarded, because it doesn't help the program to award licenses to businesses that fail, because then they get in lawsuits, and then there's all sorts of negative effect of that. So I put up here the FF and other Fs. Because in the early stage companies, sometimes you have friends, you have families, and other fools, we'll call it at this point. And what I mean is you're in the highly speculative point of this process. In other words, we don't know how many applications are going to go in for how many spaces, but we do know that the percentages and your likelihood of being successful has varied a little bit between 4% on the low side to maybe as high as 10%. So the important point here is that as you're gathering your current team, you're in the foundational levels, you should look out there that for those that are contributing, I'll call it in your initial or what we also might call the angel funding rounds.
And Jeff, if I may interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
And because now we have Bruce here and yourself and some very talented people here. And I'm wondering if there is a way, and I don't mean to give away the secret sauce here, but if everybody can think about this for a second, if a social equity applicant was with me right now, and I would say to them, maybe there's a way you can lock in based on what might happen on some sort of like contingency plan, some sort of deal structure that, you know, this property owner, this financial partner sticks with you, but you're not necessarily obligated to them. You see what I'm saying? Because that would be in the best interest of the social equity person to have the comfort knowing that that there's somebody there as a potential teammate, but they're not obligated to that. You see what I'm saying? Kind of.
Yeah, again, I'll go back to having a professional team around you, because you can work with the landlord. You can work with, maybe it's no cash down and you give them an option for a higher rate if you're so lucky as to get the license, or if you're not going to stay there, that you would have some level of let's call it reward, if you will, for the landlord to receive. But we also again want to caution everyone, and Gary brought this up, that be very careful signing a 5-year lease if you don't have a license right now. Be careful making any of those kind of long-term commitments that could be detrimental. That's why a very brief moment today. Let me see. Let me get here. Our intent was at least to introduce, when you're looking around and you're looking to decide, what kind of a company you're going to have. I'm just introducing mainly the 3 forms: business forms, sole proprietor, partnerships, corps. I don't really feel as though we want to look at these anymore, other than to say that a partnership is used the most in Arizona with those putting together again your friends, your professional associates to be successful moving forward. So we're going to focus specifically in that area as most of our examples come along. And the reason is, we discussed this last week, and just bringing everyone back up to speed on the types of relationships, if you received a license, that you could ultimately have, which can get complex in a hurry. So as you're creating your initial company right now, understanding that you want to have a good legal organization, you want to have some clear expectations there as to where you're getting your money from, who's going to give the capital, who's going to donate services, who's going to be your real estate expert, as Dimitri's pointing out, because somebody needs to, either you're going to pay for someone to negotiate a lease, or that's part of your professional team. So let me, that's what I was saying here, is that part of our objective today is that for you to think about building your professional owners, building not only your professional owners, but I just put legal and CPA out here. There should be a third bullet point that would be some of the other folks on here, the Pauls, the Calebs, our sponsors and other professional groups. So no slight intended here, but the real point of this is that you're going to start being exposed to things where you don't have expertise. And the best thing you can do is look around and say, what do I know? What am I good at? And where do I need some help? Because mistakes that you make on the application, for example, could invalidate your application. Now, we don't know how complex it's going to be yet, but when I say here that as you look at your team, when I say professional owners, from my perspective, my team, I could clearly handle the CPA, bookkeeping, keeping those accounting things. Some of you may have friends or associates that are more experienced in the business arena, but these are just considerations that you need to look at, because either you have the expertise in your team, or you need to find it, or you need to pay for it. Okay.
Can I add something to that, Jeff?
Yeah, please do.
Just to emphasize, and by the way, I agree with everything you've said. For the audience's benefit, I don't think it's enough that you go find good, quality, competent legal counsel, CPAs, etc. I think it's important that you find good quality legal counsel and CPAs who are also specifically experienced in cannabis. Because the regulatory environment of this cannabis universe is unlike most other regulatory environments. And while absolutely, yes, you could be sitting across a very smart accountant or a very smart lawyer at what they do, if what they do is in cannabis, they might not be the right person for you.
No, it's a great point. Later on, we'll see a slide on who's who in Arizona. In that, you don't go to your general practitioner if you have heart problems.
Exactly.
You don't go to your general tax person if you have cannabis issues, because I can tell you, it's just like any other profession, and that there are experts that specialize in a respective area. And that would be, Larry, Pam. I think you joined us too, Pam.
Yeah, we have a mystery guest over there. I think her name is Pam Donner, but she's under my name, which is really interesting. So, but Jeff, can we just hear from Bruce real quickly?
Yeah.
Bruce is into restructuring, and helping these companies as things go wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd like to opine on some of the stuff he's heard so far about structuring these deals.
Sure. And what I was going to chime in with is all of these issues seem like awful things to be spending money on. When what you really want to be doing is getting out there and getting a license and getting premises and starting to generate revenue. But I'll tell you, structuring an LLC professionally and spending the time with your lawyer to make sure that your operating agreement for your LLC is really solid and contemplates some, outcomes that are unpleasant to think about is really, really critical. I'll give you one. I'll give you one example. I advised a business recently that the business became insolvent, and the principal asset was a dispensary, and we thought that we were going to have the dispensary sold and everything was going to be fine. And then all of a sudden, it became clear that none of the trade names were owned by the dispensary. They were all owned by one of the founding members of the LLC, who had since left, and nobody could find him. And of course, all the buyers said, well, we want the intellectual property. So I guess what I would say is, when you are starting a business, it may be convenient for your partner to say, okay, well, I'll go register the trade names, and I'll go get the lease, and I'll do this. And then all of a sudden, it's 3 years down the road and something goes wrong, and it's sort of too late to change all those things. And all of a sudden, you're trying to undo some bad drafting and some either bad lawyering or non-lawyering that was done at the outset. And the costs of fixing things are so much greater than doing them right the first time. I would really echo what the other panelists have said in terms of beginning with the end in mind, and getting the right people around you.
No, great point. So Larry, you look like you had something on to add.
Yeah, I was going to, well, Gary chimed in with the right perspective there. You know, we deal with so many clients across the country that all of a sudden there's this infighting going on amongst themselves. And the last person that you want to be fighting with in front of is people that are handling your money. So you can't discount getting the right people. And I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, but he was a really good attorney. He just didn't know anything about the industry. That's not even funny. I don't know why I was laughing. It's just, it's sad. So take your time, use the professionals. Within the association, there are really, really good people to deal with. And just because a bank says they'll take you, please don't disguise your identity to get a bank account. A lot of people do that, and then they find out that they get terminated from the bank. So be very careful in everything you're doing, and deal with the professionals that understand not only the industry, but the state in which you're operating in or about to operate in.
It's a great point, Larry. I personally, as part of being in this industry, have been bounced from 5 different banks. And however, I'm very careful when I fill out the bank forms and describe what the characteristics of my business are. Sometimes banks right now, we'll get into that in a few minutes. I think we have a few slides on banking,
Sure.
and just I didn't want to throw out a term, but it's a great point. Again, by the time someone gets to your organization, or even the banks, or even attorneys, you need to make some decisions, and some decisions, as I said, would be, how are you going to surround yourself, and then how are you going to memorialize your understanding of the business relationship, meaning where's the partnership part agreements. That's very important.
And you had a slide right before this one that talked about the organization. Somebody earlier, I think it might have been Bruce or Gary, had said, understand what your exit strategy, what you think your exit strategy is going to be, get everybody to agree to that, and then don't decide you're going to go public or become a multi-state operator or whatever it is you're going to do when you're an LLC. You got to be really structured properly and take advantage of all the tax codes and things that are available to you that many professionals that aren't in the industry just don't know anything about.
It's a great
point. Along those lines, Jeff, and we all keep talking about going back to lawyers, and Gary, as the president of the Cannabis Bar Association, it's so important that lawyers have the years of experience in dealing with these particular matters. It's absolutely essential, because even that little IP issue, that's something that's kind of unique to cannabis law, as Bruce was saying. So, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was gonna, is it okay if I say something?
Please
Jump
do.
in.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So, I guess in terms of legal, obviously we don't have a cannabis license. We're payment technology, but for what we've done, there's a lot of compliance that's required, and having that kind of long-term goal, I think, is super important, because even in just getting a license, there's a lot of compliance, and just making sure you're doing things right. Because when you take the shortcuts, you end up, your business is a little bit more short-lived. You might get there a little bit quicker. But, long term, you definitely want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And it may really stink to have to call your lawyer all the time to update them on things and whatnot. But it's definitely worth the money. Your business may change. You may have a falling out, or employees leave, or you always want to make sure your lawyer is updated on what's going on, because they're the ones that can definitely help you. Don't ignore them for a long period of time. Make sure they're in the know. And I would say that from just, us starting our business, I think that's been incredibly helpful.
Right.
I'm going to recommend to people that they use your virtual slide model from now on, because that's a good idea to put some good information behind you like that. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
You know, Dimitri, I think this would be a good spot if we had Pam. I'm going to say Pam, Paul, and Caleb, because all of you were applicants. All of you worked within partnerships that were not successful for a minute, and you went through this. I'll call it this time frame where we've got a lot of the participants thinking about the things that we're talking about and bringing, I'll call it folks together. But what maybe Paul, in your different roles, what have you seen that you've learned that our participants could hear today about this process?
For the application phase of the process, making sure that your team is all on the same page. I think communication that's been kind of gone over in this panel is key. As you move along, a lot of the process is all, line by line going through the rules. So you just want to make sure that everybody is reading all of the rules, all of the fine details of each one of these multiple processes that everyone's going to be going through, whether that's the zoning process with your municipality or the county that you're working with, or just making a verbal and written agreement between two parties over something that's some moving part during your deal, making sure that everyone's on the same page about what each person's role and exact kind of project task is during this phase. It's extremely important to be as organized as possible. They've got multiple checklists to go through to make sure that you're meeting the requirements usually in these application phase processes. So, checking through that checklist line by line and showing and exemplifying, how you're going to enact these voted approved laws. I think that's the most important kind of advice that I would give. Does that answer the question, or is that too broad?
Yeah, no, I'm opening it up again because you've got some I'll call it wear on those treads, sometimes on your back from being in these relationships. And what everyone needs to understand is to make a business work is work.
Yes, it is. Once you get into this kind of application phase and the ball starts rolling, you're working every day, tying something down or getting something filled out with the right requirements. I can tell you that in the Missouri application phase back in 2018, 2019, we scrambled and we had under 10 days to kind of put everything together. There was a team that Dimitri had put together pretty quickly that happened to be all the right people. And, it took a lot of, hey, this is what we need. This is what we're doing. Are you on board as well? It included making side deals with different type of consulting companies of their different expertises. And we were almost everyone I've worked with and almost everyone in the past that I've talked to about writing and submitting applications, everyone says it's down to the wire. At the very, very, very end, that's when everyone's finalizing, revising, and getting that final step in. And so you're scrambling no matter what. Even if you have a 60+ day time frame, you may be going after more than one application at a time. So just organization.
We clearly want to be beyond the personality points in our partnerships by then, right?
Right. And it's just having a clear, project manager to tie it all together, or someone assigned to making sure that everyone's on task, or the different municipal timelines. Say you have to go to a hearing for your community and you have to do some outreach, making sure that you've done that outreach and filled out and informed the public that's about to speak on whether or not they want you here. So things like that all are important, and everyone who's working on an application like this is gonna see that it's all about project management and organization.
Right, Dimitri, you were about to make a
Yeah, I
comment.
know Pam and Caleb are going to go next, but
Okay.
idea. I just came up with an idea, which I love.
Here's
that.
an idea. Ding, ding, ding.
In May, all the panelists will be invited that we have from here until April 15th, which will be about 100 different panelists. The 100 panelists will be invited with all the social equity applicants that we have registered. We have 700 people registered to watch these online and stuff. We average around 100 live at any time. But we'll invite them all to the same spot so they can all network together and all decide who they might want to work with, etc., and learn more. So we're going to have a giant networking event in May, which is after the 100 days of masks or whatever. And so I think that's a good plan. So just throwing that out there.
Great
Everybody
plan.
put on your calendar. Giant May networking event in Arizona. Social equity applicants meet panelists.
There you
Sorry,
go.
Go ahead.
You know, with that hat, we need to call you Chairman Dimitri.
I'm in South America.
Yeah,
This is where the only revolutions are left.
that's good. Caleb, you know, you've been in a variety of different partnerships and in different phases. Some things maybe to share with our participants that would be helpful.
Yeah, first and foremost is trust your gut. Trust the feeling that you're getting of the people around you. I heard that question coming up about earlier of landlords and other people really pushing to sign deals. That's who are going to be your partners. So you got to remember that a partnership is like a marriage, and you need to be able to tolerate these people, and not just tolerate, but work well with them over the course of what could be the next 5 or 10 years. But then you also need to know, what does that time frame look like? We talked a lot about exit strategy, and I think that's important to always go in and know, what does that look like for yourself? I've been in a lot of instances where it's management by committee and it's not a clearly defined decision-making process. And as you can imagine, it takes a while to get decisions made. And then we're scrambling because we've lost all of that cushion of time trying to decide what to do versus just making a decision and getting it done. So when it comes to the application phase, I mean, I'll echo a lot of what Paul was saying on organization and on those checklists and what you'll see from the state level. You should have your own internal checklist, your own internal project plan that is keeping track of every step in development, that there's a set of checks and balances. So you're not just assuming that one of your other partners has this piece done and, oh, that's done. You find out at 11 o'clock that they didn't post it or it got lost in ransomware, or stuff happens. So you really need to plan for the unexpected, give yourself as much of a cushion, and organize of what is this going to look like, who's doing what, who's responsible for what, and how do we make sure that things are actually getting done. And a lot of that is as part of the communication and how you organize yourself.
I appreciate those comments. Let me just jump to Pam for a minute here. Pam, hello, Pam. You've been in just by way of introduction for everyone, that you've been in a wide variety of partnerships also, and our emphasis or where we are is so how do we select good people? And like most of us, you've probably been in good ones and bad ones.
And maybe you can share with us some horror stories, because I know you know them.
Well, hello everybody. It's great to be here again. I said this the last time and I'll say it again. You only have partners because you need them. And so you have to determine what area of expertise your partners are coming in at. And then you have to respect and recognize that you brought them in for a certain reason. And you're going to be partners a long time. Your success is made at the beginning. Your success is made when you're doing your setup. Your success is created early on. And I think that's one thing to remember. You don't just throw it together and hope for the best. You determine all this as you organize and move forward. You absolutely need to have one. I love the one project manager. There are a tremendous amount of moving parts in this whole process. So one person has got to be the engine. And so I highly recommend and defer to that, set the people up, and that's going to be your leader. Another thing I've learned over the years as your consultant, you've got your lawyers and you've got your accountants and your any other consultants, but they also need managed. I mean, you have got to manage the entire process, including your experts.
It's a great point.
Right. And so I'm very clear about that. And one of the reasons I'm clear about this and have such strong opinions is part of my career has been as a court-appointed receiver. And so as a court-appointed receiver, I'm like one of the first people to the train wreck. You know, it's still smoking and people are still bleeding and they aren't bandaged up yet. And so I go in and try to salvage the asset. And boy, there's some real horror stories. I've seen a lot of things. And probably what I've seen the most that created the problems was poorly put together partnerships.
Wow.
And it's sort of like a marriage, but it has to be better than a marriage. So, so pick your partners wisely and respect the position. That, you know, that's one of the things as you go in and you interview people, and the interviews are terrible, and they don't trust each other. They set it up wrong. They didn't define the duties, and there was no accountability. And if you have all that, it's going to be a train wreck.
Who were the lawyers who put together the groups that went into receivership? I'm just kidding.
Oh,
No one on this panel.
if I told you, I'd have to kill y'all.
But Jeff, just really, Gary and Clark, you know, maybe they could chime in as well.
Yeah, please do.
You guys are seeing a lot of these things, and you guys are having to structure a lot of these deals.
Yeah.
You know, how complicated is it when 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people come and sit down with you and say, we want to form a partnership? I mean, you know, what happens next, and any just overview advice that you can give to people before they end up in your office?
Yeah, I could speak to that. Thanks, Dimitri. I mean, I want to, first of all, I very much echo what most of the panelists were saying here today. And, you know, I do like using the term divorce because when it's all about being planned, having everything ready and planned and secure at the onset so that there's accountability going forward. You know, and part of that is figuring out not just what your exit strategy is, but what your short-term and long-term goals are and what steps you need to do to get there. At the end of the day, things change. You know, people change their minds. I've seen management disputes all the time. It's part of, you know, it's part of my job to help resolve management disputes. And usually, if you don't have the right structuring and paperwork at the beginning, things get messy. That's very much a situation that you don't want to be in. And no matter how, you know, how friendly everybody is in the beginning. So, you know, back to the terminology divorce, it's kind of like treating it as having alimony papers in the beginning. You know, when you have when you're structuring your business, you know, you want to make sure that you're going to the right partners. I think Jeff brought this up earlier is, you know, beware of the term experts, because we have seen a lot of deals and partnerships fall apart because individuals have not been able to rise up to the occasion or meet their promises, and, you know, it creates issues from a operational perspective, a business perspective, and compliance perspective. And, you know, and to avoid that is it's really figuring out in the beginning, well, one, what everybody's roles are, putting that down on paper, structuring, you know, it appropriately, and making sure that you also put down on paper what the plan is, so that, you know, if it's a couple years down the line somebody changes their mind, well, it'll be harder for them to unilaterally go out and cause disruptions or do things, because, they're bound by contract, or they're bound by the governing documents of whatever entity you decide to form, and you don't have these issues down the line. So one of the things is, I think it's important to have some of the more difficult discussions with your prospective partners in the very beginning, and really fleshing out what everybody's expectations are regarding the deal, what everybody's rights are, what they're responsible for, so that you run into these problems less and less down the line, so to speak.
And if you make a deal with a lawyer, make sure that Gary?
Oh, Dimitri. When you get back in town, I will hug you. Provided you don't have COVID.
Actually, I tested positive. That's why I'm in quarantine in Colombia. So it's a long story.
Well then, mental hugs, buddy. But yeah, picking up where Clark left off, I've handled a lot of litigation over the last decade, from the various waves of investment and licensure that took place. And a common recurrent theme is that the people who ended up fighting hadn't really had clear communications from the get-go. It's so important to know who you're doing business with and what your mutual aspirations and intentions are with that business. Just having a desire to get in isn't enough. Having a partner who maybe you need capital and they've got money, that's fine. Get the money, get them, joined on as a partner, but maybe come to an agreement up front, restricting or limiting their involvement. Maybe it's better just to have them be a silent, passive investor rather than having actual direct day-to-day managerial responsibility when it's just not their skill set. So these are the kinds of things you want to be thinking about.
Well, I'd like to say something there, and that is, as a court-appointed receiver, what I saw was the people that knew marijuana and the people that knew business and money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so you maybe don't want the guy with the money giving you too much input on how to grow, but you have to treat the guy with the money like he's the guy with the money. And a lot of these marijuana people treated the guy with the money like he was an idiot and started locking him out of the business, not sending him reports. And in the end, the guy with the money knows how to use the lawyers and have them maybe on retainer. So there was a huge conflict initially here in the state between the people with the knowledge and the people with the money. And it was a bad marriage. It was, call it whatever you want, but there was a lot of things that didn't work out so well right away in the first 12 months.
Totally agree. Pam is singing the gospel, folks. Pay attention to what she's telling you. It's all true.
Gary, if I could just interject real quick there. And to Pam's point, I think all of us, we've kind of been talking about marriages, divorces, and romantic relationships in general. And I think if we use those as kind of, a model of sorts, the most successful relationships in those realms, those people are aligned on their values. They value the same things. So I think, speaking to all these entrepreneurs, maybe this is their first time, kind of sussing out potential partners. I think a great place to start is, hey, do we value the same things? That can be an easier start to the conversation, to even see if you want to continue down this deal-making road. Because if you're not value aligned, then your partnerships will typically, that's where a lot of cracks, and to your point, Gary, communication failure breaks down. And part of that communication failure is because they didn't know, that communication is a valuable piece as well to business. So I just say, make sure you're aligning with not only partnerships as far as your ownership team and structuring your business organization, but down the line, who are you when you bring on ancillary products or services? Those should be viewed as partnerships as well. And do you align? Does your vision and, Gary, like you said, aspirations / values, do those align? And do you think those companies can deliver on what's most important to you and your vision of your business?
And by the way, you don't need to ask permission, just jump in.
One,
I was like, excuse me, thank you. So thanks for that.
one more thing that I would add is, it's been true in the mining business for a long time, and we've seen people in both Canada and the United States in the cannabis business who their slide deck says, hey, look, we've got a lot of capital and we've got a lot of operational expertise, and you've got this great idea. And Margaret Thatcher said a long time ago that the person who proposes to do everything for you will ultimately take everything from you.
Yeah.
So you've got to you have to have a very clear proposition for potential financing partners as to what they're bringing to the table and what you're bringing to the table. And all of this, not to harp on the point, but all of this gets memorialized in the documents that are written at the very beginning of the relationship, and it's very tough to change. So that's just a principle to keep in mind.
I've never heard anyone quote Margaret Thatcher before. That's pretty cool.
Bruce, that's a really good point you bring out, because I listen to a lot of stories about owners who are moving along real well until they start making money.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden the disagreements and they move from fear to greed. And there are a lot of businesses in the cannabis industry who the owners have been pushed by investors and other people to ignore certain rules like 280 Cap E. I can't tell you how many companies have just ignored it, and the IRS is getting ready to come down on audits now, and they're talking hundreds of millions of dollars are going to be collected from businesses. And if you think about that, some of these businesses don't have $2, $3, $5 million liquid to pay the tax that they should have been dealing with along the way, and they're going to have to sell their license or worse. And in the cannabis industry, as of recently, I'm sure hasn't changed, you can't declare bankruptcy. So you got to sell your license, and then your dream goes away. So stick with your principles, know who's in charge at the beginning, and don't let somebody convince you to do something that's illegal. I run into that too often. It's terrible.
It's a great point. Very good point. And especially in an industry that is not legal at the federal level. And so it's very easy to get outside of the rails here if especially if you don't have support from your executive or ownership team. And that's great advice. Let me go ahead.
Jeff, just one more point. And this was something I brought up in last week's seminar as well, but it's still true this week. As you're selecting people to do business with, be it a direct partner or just an ancillary vendor or service provider, know who you're dealing with, know who you're talking to. This is a new industry, and people come from literally all over the world to try to jump into it. So there are vast pools of total strangers out there who may all be nice people. I don't know. I haven't met them all. And you may be looking at smiling faces who seem to say the things you want to hear, but they may not really harbor those intentions. So do your due diligence, check these people out before you sign deals with them, because once your signature is on the page, it may be too late. And there are a variety of things you can do to research the backgrounds of individuals. There are lots of public databases you can just access yourself. And there are also services that can do deep dive research into people, including you can hire the services of private investigators. My firm offers an array of these sorts of services, and we've got vendors who also provide them. And I recommend, if you're about to ink a deal and get married, know who you're marrying.
That's a great point.
Would you advise putting a private investigator on your fiance? I'm just kidding.
No, but yeah, to your point, Gary, I mean, you're doing business with humans, and if we're talking, I know you kind of brought up bringing in different, softwares, companies, whether it's any ancillary situation, products, you name it, when you're implementing and integrating into your business. But at the end of the day, it's, it's really important to remember, especially like in our realm over here of digital payment solutions, you're not hiring a computer, you're not hiring a software. At the end of the day, you're working with these humans, and they're essentially your new teammates in kind of the journey to create a thriving business. So just like you were saying, Gary, like know who you're working with. Again, I'll go back to aligning with, like, do you have the same vision as far as values are concerned and where you're going with your business? At the end of the day, it's about the humans, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
it's a great point, Matt. Maybe some of you might ask yourself, well, how do I do this? I mean, how do I make these decisions? And what you have up here is you saw on the agenda that we were just going to touch on a business plan. But one way is, as you start to collect your associates, potentially your future business partners. One way to do it that I've found, and that probably every one of the panelists on here have participated, is developing a business plan, either with their own individual company, a personal company, or with partners. And I put this out here because, again, you can Google business plans. In fact, you can Google cannabis business plans, and there's some out there. And they'll go through each one of these sections, and some of them, you'll find some templates out there. You'll find some for $100. You'll find some for $1,000. And you kind of get what you pay for. I want to give the caveat there is that in several states, they've noticed that the applications or the business plans all look the same. And so the state has gone up to these websites or has seen samples, or somebody brings it in the morning and says, I found their business plan. It was on the website. And this actually happened in a situation that I get involved with evaluating partnerships from a financial perspective. Should I invest in this? What's the company worth? Those kinds of questions. But the interesting thing, this was just a few weeks ago, is the company, I'll call it the ownership group, you out there looking for money. They sent me the business plan, which included a financial model. And just, out of curiosity, I Googled, and it was a cultivation. I Googled cultivation business model, and there it was. Their exact model. They didn't even change the colors, the backgrounds, the underlying assumptions. And so it told me that these guys were inexperienced. Tells me a lot as an evaluator, as a person looking to help someone move to the next level. But you're not going to fool when you sit down with your attorneys and your bankers and those folks on this panel. When I say you're not going to fool them, is moving through this process here creates a better relationship with your vendors, with your lawyers, with your partners. And so I maybe look out at Larry. You ever done a business plan before?
Me?
Can you hear me?
Many.
Many. Any tidbits of advice as anyone's going through here? I guess maybe the best advice is just do it.
Well, you're right. Go to Google and pull off the structure or the outline, but don't copy somebody else's work. Plagiarizing somebody else's work and not changing anything is ridiculous.
Yes, sir.
And then second, work with a CPA on the financial side of it, because I have seen so many numbers, people that made 0 sense. I don't think they even believe their numbers. So make sure you go through it with somebody that really knows what they're doing.
and the operator, this person looking for capital, I gave him the bad news. I said, it's trying to be professional and polite, and, it doesn't fit my investment profile. I mean, I have customers helping, asking me to evaluate something, and he wrote me back and he said, tell me the truth, man. Why this is, cultivation is great. It's marijuana. Invest in me. And I had to say to him, you used somebody else's work. You didn't rework them to be truthful. And what it told me is that anyone investing in you is just throwing money into the wind.
So with that, there's a lot of really bad software out there that has become extremely popular in the industry because it's cheap. And as a financial institution, we have to file suspicious activity reports for an inconsistency in a financial statement. One of the reasons that banks won't participate is because they can't get true reconciliation, and the bank's directors and officers insurance is just through the roof because of that and a few other reasons. So there's a few softwares out there. We happen to have one of them because we needed to make sure not to have mistakes made that will take you out of the 80% tax bracket of 280 Cap E and properly reconcile all the way through. So when you get to the audit, we've been through many, many audits with our clients. The IRS agents can't be fooled, and they know about double entry. That means you're taking data off the software to track and trace and sticking it on the QuickBooks. And they're just not buying into that anymore. So within your business plan, put down what you're going to use for your proper software and your accounting, and don't make a mistake, because a lot of the investors know now what's good and what's not, if they've invested in the industry before.
I think a business plan is definitely super important. I mean, obviously it gives you what you're going to present to your investors, but even beyond, even backtracking from that, it gives your team, for one, work with your team, your entire team on the business plan. I would recommend not just having one person doing it, assuming you have a marketing person, a finance person, or the executive team. Because what that does is it gives everyone accountability and direction of what they're supposed to be doing, where we're all going as a company. And it just helps you work better as a team. That way, when you're presenting it to an investor, it's real. I think that they can probably see that it's genuine. And, reach out to your experts, reach out to advisors, or even people in this group about, what do you think of this? Because that's all going to help you. But I think, just starting with your team, building it out, making it your genuine business plan, and that will benefit you huge.
And then it's specialized too, because everyone, has their expertise in their own department, and then, come together. More heads are better than one, and just kind of see where those synergies are aligning. And, I love sitting in a room with our whole team, and we just kind of let things flow. And so many more like amazing ideas come out of that just by riffing off each other. So when you're building your business plan, don't be afraid to sit in a room for 2 days and dream up the future of your business.
Leave the brownies. Hey, we've and again, our intent here is that there's a lot of resources out there to look at samples on a business plan, and that's probably a good first bet, just to kind of give you familiarity with what's out there, and then from there, work with your teams. We've mentioned a number of things this afternoon on banking, on what we call, notice a MRB, which is a marijuana related business. And that's important to know as your pre-application, what we affectionately say, which means you're not a marijuana related business yet. At this point, you are a speculative management company, or a speculative company that is going to apply for an application. You'll be a different kind of business if you are awarded a license, which means marijuana-related business. The difference there, and I think was it you, Bruce, somebody mentioned the suspicious activity report. What does that mean? That sounds like you're being monitored all the time.
Well, it wasn't me, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you're being monitored.
So that was me.
Yeah, Larry, thank you.
So the Financial Crimes Network put out, the FinCEN, that's an arm of the United States Department of Treasury. They put out a comprehensive list of items back on February 14th of 2014, seems like yesterday, of what to follow and track that is, quote, suspicious. And much of it is around cash and anti-terrorism, money laundering. And the two items that we track, one in particular is the inconsistency in the financial statement, because there are people in the industry who take product, or sorry, they declare that product is no longer, plants are no longer in production. They say they take the tag out, and then they try to deposit money equal to what the product would have been if they had it, meaning they shoved it out the back door to the black market. And that is a really big problem nationally. So there are probably 50 or 60 different items that you have to follow as a bank that would be considered suspicious. I have a whole list of them. I can post them up somewhere and send those out.
No, but the point that I think you're making that I want to reemphasize is that there's a few things in this industry that can be fatalistic, if you will. In other words, kill the organization. And banking shouldn't be frightening. It's just very structured.
That's
and
right.
so, and we'll talk about a few that are playing in this field here in Arizona in a minute. But if everything that we've talked about seems a little rigid, a little, a lot of rules and things, you're right. There's a lot of rules and things, and that's why we have a panelist of experts. That's why initially, again, I say know what you don't know, and banking is very important. Right now, you can open a bank because if you create a partnership, you go down to your banker. It's a consulting firm, and I just did it. I just did it for a couple of consulting organizations that are providing business to what we would call either leaf touching or non-leaf touching. But when you're filling out those forms and when you're doing the things as either a marijuana related business or a not marijuana related business, and Larry emphasized this also, is you need to be truthful. It's actually a felony if you propose to deceive the federal government or the banks under the banking laws.
Jeff, time out for a second. Big valuable takeaway here, because people are going to be watching this, from now until August, and they're going to be putting together $10,000, $30,000, creating a bank account so they can go hire their consultant and do minor activities and hire their lawyer, etc. So you're telling me with 100% certainty, and I just want to quickly have Gary and Clark chime in, that it's okay for them to go and open a bank account, put that $20,000, $30,000 in with their little partnership group to go forward in that direction. Everything will be fine. And that's a very important thing that people are asking themselves out there. And maybe Gary or Clark wants to, I don't want to, you can.
Well, before the answer, Dimitri, before the answer, I'll give you my personal experience. Like I said, last week, opening it's a cannabis related consulting company, but cannabis is not the qualifier. I'm a management consultant. And I truthfully signed the forms that I'm a management consulting. I'm not in the marijuana business. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that your banker may not treat it that way. They may treat it, as marijuana related, or also, as Larry talked about, a suspicious activity report. If I deposit cash into the bank, whether I'm marijuana related or not, you have the possibility of being flagged as suspicious. But Larry and Bruce, maybe make some comments. It's okay to say I'm full of it. Don't do what I'm saying, but go ahead.
No, just real quickly, I'd like to hear from Gary and
Gary. Oh, sorry.
And then maybe Larry, Bruce, and
yeah. Sorry, Dimitri.
No, but then maybe Larry, Bruce, and Lauren can opine if that's the route our social equity applicants are going to be taking, what they can do to better prepare themselves to deal with the realities as they exist today, post victory, working with groups like All 36. But first, Gary and Clark, are you guys okay with that concept? And I don't want to put you on the spot to give any like binding legal advice here, but
I could speak from experience, and that is, at the end of the day, working in the cannabis industry, banking is always going to be an issue. Banks inherently are risk averse, so they don't like working with cannabis companies, especially in light of the federal illegality. So where does that leave you? Practically speaking, most of the time you're working with state and local banking institutions, and the requirements, as to how you may secure bank accounts, it really depends. So, for example, it's for some of the local banks that I know of that work with cannabis operations, they have a lot more. They require a lot more oversight. You're required to provide a lot more documentation than you normally would when you're opening up a bank account. They want to peek under the sheets. They want to know what you're doing with your operations. They want all your operative documents. If you have some type of management contracts, subcontractor agreements with other entities, they want to see it. Anytime that gets changed, they want a copy of it. That's been my experience with dealing with at least the local banks around here that are friendly enough to work with cannabis companies. But there's also a trade-off with these banks. Usually there's higher fees, and there's a lot more hand-holding along the way. But at the end of the day, you will, if you comply with the requirements, be able to, you're likely be able to obtain a bank account. And sometimes banks will have specific requirements. So for example, if you're not the license holder yourself, but you're working with the license holder, the bank might potentially require both of you to be joint signers on that account. It just really depends on what the bank's specific requirements are. But to Dimitri's question regarding, well, would you feel comfortable putting your money in that bank? And do you have to disclose that your cannabis operation? Well, number one, I would say, obviously be truthful. That goes to what Jeff was speaking before. Don't lie about what type of business you are. You might end up getting blacklisted as a whole, and then that caused other problems down the line. But in terms of how to actually secure banking, it really depends. Like for example, if you're the license holder, you will need to work with local banks that will perform banking services with you, and you'll have to go through requirements, provide the documentation that they want. But if you are, for example, providing certain types of ancillary services, and you could truthfully represent that to the banking institutions, then are you subject to some of these additional restrictions that banks might impose on cannabis companies? I would say not so much. So at the end of the day, it depends. And something else to think about, at least from the perspective of licensing and everybody else, is if you bring in and potential investors who might not be in the cannabis industry, and they don't want to be they don't want their names tied to this because it might affect their banking elsewhere. How do you structure that? That goes back to what we were talking about before with your business planning and your deal making organization. But these are all things that should be done at the forefront.
So Clark brings up a couple of good points here, and everybody has. And the word "it depends" really matters. So if you're being very honest and truthful, and you're working with a bank or a credit union that works in the cannabis industry, and they feel like it's worth their time because you're brand new and they can't make a lot of money on you and it costs them a lot of money for compliance, they may or may not take you. If you filled out an application with us and said you used to be with Wells, B of A, or Chase, I'd say BS. You didn't tell them the truth because they don't work with the cannabis industry. So I think it was Jeff who said, if you're not already operating, and you say that you are management consulting or whatever, unfortunately, that is the second level of, or first level of SARS reporting for somebody who says there's something that they're not, and that is a felony if
Oh,
convicted.
no, I'm not saying that you're not, though, Larry. That's
Got it.
right.
Okay. So there are a few alternative companies out there that you may run into their names. Be careful if they're not taking on fiduciary responsibility of the funds and they're just a broker in the middle. Because banks do take people on no matter what business you're in or personal, and then they terminate you after they do a little deeper dive. So you walk out of there thinking that you got a bank account, and the next week you got a letter saying you're not, no longer banking. And by the way, your friend, your wife or husband and other relatives are all eliminated too, because they're afraid of commingling the funds. So you got to be really careful and work with financial institutions who are known to work in that industry, and don't have a problem with how big you get, because that's another problem. As you get bigger, they terminate you because you're hitting up against the cap rate that they all have that we can talk about another time. But so there's a lot involved there. And there's a few companies like ours who are able to take businesses, but you want to make sure that whoever you're working with is not a broker sitting in the middle. Very important.
Just real quickly, Jeff, if I may, one of the chats in the chat room, somebody said, this is all overwhelming. I have no idea where to start. And, I get that. But we have all 36 here. And in the chat room, they're offering a free merchant toolkit filled with industry insights and resources. And one thing that is really smart is to reach out to like full service microbes. Well, what are they? All 36, what are they? They're ancillary companies that are interacting with lots of manufacturers, cultivations, dispensaries. And so they're learning about, and they have tremendous knowledge about how things actually work. That's not necessarily their business model. So they can provide insights, as all 36 is offering insights and resources to help you understand things better. And, in the hopes that when you win your license, you work with them. That's great business. And that's a great approach. And that's what this equity program is all about. So I want to thank you all 36 for throwing that up there. I didn't know you were going to. But like Weed Maps is offering free things. NCIA is offering free things. Copper State's going to be doing a whole tour in May of their facility so people have some better understanding. These are people that want to offer help to those who are coming next, and hopefully some goodwill will develop. But we did miss Jeff. We did miss Gary, because I wanted to get his answer on that banking.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And I actually also want to offer a sidecar comment. But doubling all the way back to your original question, Dimitri, you were asking about the propriety of hopeful applicants just throwing some money in a bank account to get ready to go. Yeah, you're going to need seed money to get started. But if I'm taking your question literally, and I am, don't just throw money in an account, assuming you can get the account open. Have some agreements in place between you and your intended partners, because if you guys just throw money in a bank account and have nothing in writing and somebody starts to spend the money or helps themselves, prepare for fights. So absolutely, yes, plan on opening a seed bank, to literal bank account, not seeds, a seed account to take some initial cash to start doing the initial expenditures you need to do, but have an agreement in place first, God, don't do it on a handshake. The other thing I wanted to say too, which is my sidecar comment relative to the challenges of banking, is that you've got to remember the reason this industry has trouble banking is because of the federal prohibition. The banks all are at omnipresent risk if they do business with this industry of being accused of facilitating narcotics trafficking, because at the federal level, this is all still considered narcotics trafficking. So the bank's fear is, doing a nice business with you and then having some federal prosecutor show up with an indictment that accuses them of money laundering and structuring, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why banks are hard to get. And it's also why they put you through the ringer when they will take you. But along with that means that once you're in the industry, your personal financial life will also suffer these changes. And it means, for example, that if you're a cannabis executive, you might not be able to go get a conventional mortgage from a conventional lender anymore. Because if they realize, and you'll have to tell them because you're filling out sworn statements and applications, but when they realize that your income derives from this industry, that alone might be a disqualifier for you. Now, if you're doing fantastically, you might not care, but you need to be aware that at the beginning, your life will change financially as well.
Yeah, and Gary, to your and Dimitri's point, especially with banking, it may seem like the more like natural first ancillary piece to go to, because you need to know where you're putting all your money, right? But to what you were saying earlier, Dimitri, we work with a lot of banks. So sometimes working backwards, finding, a payment solution that you trust and that is compliant and it's a little more easier for you to understand, we can help point you in the right direction for banks too.
Well, we thank you for that. I mean, I've known Lauren for almost a decade now, so you guys have tremendous industry insights. So we appreciate you being social equity mentors. We really do. Jeff, we're running out of time here. We would like to keep these to 2 hours.
Yes, we do.
Everyone will be invited back just to host their own panels or to be part of other panels. Obviously, there's a ton of information. We're never going to get it all out. And so I want to give everybody a chance to close, maybe for like a minute or two, talk about themselves, who they are, what their business is, so people can know where to contact them and stuff, etc. Is that cool?
Yeah, please do. We're about 8 minutes there. And actually, we were down to the last slide. And the last slide really is who's who in Arizona. And I think the panelists, I look forward to hearing certainly Clark and Pam and Caleb and Paul and how they can how they fit in here. But you also notice, Dimitri, once you have a license, we have identified banks. Once you have a license, so you've been one of the awardees, I can guarantee you I can find capital, and not necessarily my own, but making the connection with a good solid business plan and the right partners. You'll be able to find, and don't have to go through me, that was just a point, but let's make sure that the participants understand how to plug in today's who's who here from the panels. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was reading the chat, Jeff. Was that so? Time to close up?
Yes, sir. How's that?
You want to say goodbye, or at least say I'm Jeff. I'm goodbye.
I just did.
Sorry. All right. Well, let's go through the group. Zuber Lawler was kind enough to lend us Bruce, a tremendous expert on the international cannabis front. And Bruce, we just want to remind people who you are and your availability, how to get a hold of you, what you do, etc.
Yeah, sure. My contact info is right behind me, and also on the Mito website. I do consulting on business plans. I do a little bit of capital introduction work, and more than happy to engage with social equity licensees. Thanks again for having me, and look forward to being in touch with everybody.
Well, these are very important deals, and I imagine a lot of these guys, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they're available for sale. These licenses should be worth between $10 and $15 million upon issuance. So a lot of crazy stuff is going to happen. And when you get to things at that level, I know that you have the kind of experience to help people sort through it. So thank you very much for joining us. Let's go to Gary Smith, one of our ongoing panelists. A couple words.
Absolutely. Well, it's my hello to goodbye. So I'm still Gary Smith. I'm still a lawyer. You can reach me at Guidant Law Firm. My email address is smith@guidant.law, GUIDANT.LAW. My services are available to anybody in the industry, and my firm can do everything from cradle to grave. We do both transactional and, if it all goes catastrophically wrong, litigation as well. And I'm going to end on a cheap plug for my book, because I have a cheap plug for my book. I have authored Psychedelic Elects, The Law of Psychedelics, which involves all plant medicines, including cannabis. And I have distilled 10 years of cannabis practice and a whole lot more into this text, available on Amazon now.
Is that a picture? Is that a picture book, Larry, or is that all words?
It is all words, lots and lots and lots of words. This thing is laden with legal citations and references. It is intended to be a practitioner's manual and also accessible to literally anybody. I tried to write it at a level that everybody could grasp.
I have trouble like texting. That's a lot of writing. I really do appreciate you.
Well, when I do the spoken book version, I will come read it to you.
And I will be there, and the world will be a better place because of it. Well, everything Gary and I do, we do well together. He's one of those guys that just makes the world a better place.
That is true. I'm like donuts.
That's great.
I actually don't like donuts, so that's.
Oh, damn it.
Clark, would you like to reintroduce yourself, say goodbye, etc.?
Sure. Thanks, Dimitri. And again, my name is Clark Wu. I'm a business and litigation attorney with Bianchi and Brandt. We're a full service law firm, catered to the cannabis industry, and we've been with the industry here in Arizona since inception. We can help you with everything from planning, corporate structuring, developing your business plan, licensing, all the way through to building out your operations, clients, helping you with your deals, transactional work of any nature, and if something goes wrong, litigation. So we're here for you. I'll leave my contact information in the chat as well. So if anybody would like to reach out, feel free to do so. And I look forward to speaking with some of you.
And I really do appreciate you guys. Zuber Lawler, Bianchi Brandt, Gary Smith. I hope each of you guys end up working with a bunch of social equity applicants, because you really are really outstanding individuals. Paul, my sidekick, who helps design this whole program and is responsible for, like Jeff, most of what we do. And we really appreciate you, Paul. But just go ahead and reintroduce yourself, say goodbye.
Well, thanks. I appreciate everybody here as well. I'm just kind of hanging out in the background, answering questions in the chat, to be kind of the fact checker, facilitator here on some of these calls. Some of these weeks you'll see me, popping in and having, a full discussion as well. If anybody has any questions, looking for just quick reference information, feel free to call me, email me. I'm always available.
Yeah, you guys will be seeing Paul and Jeff for weeks to come, and we're just catching our flow. This is a new concept, so we're figuring out how to get it done best. But we're getting plenty of positive feedback about providing information, helping people network, etc. So thanks again, Paul, for all your support. Larry, take 30 seconds. You're on mute, Larry.
First time I did that, darn it. Thank you again for inviting me. This has been a fabulous meeting, and the cannabis industry is so rewarding to so many people, but it's also so easy to fall into a trap and get hurt and hurt a lot of other people around you. So the professionals that you heard from today are fantastic. And from a banking perspective, we've really strived to help people not be excluded, and software to help bring it all together instead of having to have 3, 4, 5 different types of software. I'm going to drop my information and my associates' information into the chat. So if anybody would like to follow up in banking in any realm, whether it's in cannabis or other areas that you may be having problems with, please let me know. And again, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Larry, for joining us. We hope to see you back, and check out our module things, our module expresses, and where you see a void, let us know and you can fill in there. All 36 are module sponsors. Thank you guys for being here. Go ahead and reintroduce yourselves and say goodbye and etc.
Well, thank you very much for having us. We're very excited to continue to be a part of this. I know it's a lot of information that we all talked about on this last 2 hours. So that's why we wanted to create the marketing toolkit. The URL is right there up in the corner, also in the chat. We're going to be ongoing adding to this. We really want to provide as much value as possible. And then obviously our expertise, of course, is on the digital payment side, how to remain compliant, what to even ask other people that you're evaluating as digital payment partners. And then I'm also available when you sign in to the toolkit. You can book a meeting with myself, and we can really just talk about anything that you want. And that's all we got.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're super pumped to be able to contribute and help like educate and encourage and all the things and contribute our insights. And yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.
You know what? You guys just created something else today. What we're going to do is that, so we have 700 plus, 800 people signed up specifically for the social equity panels, et cetera. Our database is actually 25,000 people. We get 5,000 to 10,000 opens on each email that we send. What we're going to do is any social equity, any ancillary, any dispensary, any cultivation, anyone who offers something free to the social equity applicants, we're going to send it out as part like of a package, like Raul Molina from the Mint. Everybody gets a free pre-roll when they sign the application. Pre-roll. You know, Weed Maps is giving a year worth of free products. NCIA a free membership for a year. So we'll put your thing in there first. So if you guys can help me create the graphic for that, we'll make sure we blast that out. That poor Destiny is overwhelmed behind the scenes. And she just realized that we have 2 more projects to do now as well. But when something is an opportunity, we don't stop. We just do it. We just keep going. That's one of the things about what Nita does. So Caleb, and then I'll let Pam finish up. Caleb, go ahead.
Yes, hello, I'm Caleb Tice, COO of Canna Owners, boutique consulting firm that we help throughout all stages of the vertical and for businesses of all sizes. So there really isn't much in business development from the very beginning to exiting, raising money. We're involved in all of it. So any assistance that I can provide in both the planning stages, with resources and pointing you in the right direction, that's what we're here for. So reach out. I put my contact information in the chat. My email has been up behind me the whole time. Had fun with those backgrounds. So thank you again for letting me be a part of this and helping to give back. Yeah,
and Clark and Gary, I'm going to put your free 1-hour consultation in our little email. Just kidding. You guys give a 1-hour consultation anyways.
In fairness to the comment, Dimitri, I already offer that. So absolutely yes, to anybody listening. I don't charge for an initial consult in most circumstances if you're coming from Meta, which is not always true if you're not coming from Meta.
We'll put that in that email. We'll include both. Clark, are you 15, 30 minutes, an hour? How long is it?
I think I need to talk to Laura about that.
Clark's raise just went up. Congratulations, Clark.
700 an hour.
And by the way, I was here last week. In fairness, you volunteered, Raul, for the donations.
Oh, for the free pre-rolls, yeah.
Yes.
But I think he likes the idea.
Oh, he was all smiles. He loved it.
So Pam, you didn't get to introduce yourself at the beginning, but you're one of our favorite panelists, and I know you care about people and you always want to help. So please go ahead and reintroduce yourself, say goodbye.
Okay, I'll say goodbye. So I'm Pam Donner saying goodbye. I am a partner in Untamed Herbs, which is the dispensary in Payson, Arizona. I'm on a receivership specialist team. We oversee the Green Hills Patient Center in Show Low, Arizona. I also am COO. I'm a chief operating officer, so I'm pretty black and white, and I'd be happy to help along the way as much as I can. I am a COO of 4 other companies that are marijuana or CBD related. But the most fun thing I do is my husband and I own High Point Jewelry. And it's the only cannabis inspired luxury jewelry line in the world. It's beautiful stuff. My husband is the designer. And it's Valentine's Day, so go treat yourself. highpointjewelry.com, and we're in the Scottsdale Air Park. Thanks,
Wow,
Dimitri. You do a great job.
Well, thank you. And Pam, the only piece of jewelry that I brought to Columbia is from High Point Jewelry.
All right, look at that.
That's
It's
awesome.
the only
That's a
piece of.
beautiful piece. That's a beautiful piece.
So so I'm stuck here, and I don't have my machete to dub the all social equity mentors. I'm going to give Larry, Clark, Bruce. I'm going to give you guys, since everybody else was here last week, I think. I'm going to give you guys, Pam, I'm going to give you guys symbolic dubbing. But please come back and you get your official machete. It's my grandfather's machete from the fields of Oaxaca, where some of the best cannabis has been grown historically, and mushrooms, Larry. And so we greatly appreciate your help. We hope that being here today leads to better and bigger things for all of you. And thank you for your support of META. And have a nice night.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Night,
everybody.
Everybody.
The cat.